Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi, and today we're going to talk about Dana White's Contender Series Week 5. And my friends, it's going down this Tuesday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got 10 prospects fighting for a UFC contract. This week is kind of interesting to say the least. So without further ado, let's not waste any time and let's get right down to business. Because kicking off the card in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Shanelle Dyre. She's 6-0, taking on Carol Foro, who is 8-1. Currently, they got it. Shanelle Dyre minus 150. The comeback on Carol Foro is plus 130. So Foro's 28. Dyre is 24. Dyre is 5'4". Foro is 5'2", and Dyre is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage at 64 inches of reach. So this is a hell of a fight to kick off the card. And also it's the first women's fight of the entire season. And man, they couldn't have picked two better prospects to bring in right here, because these two ladies throw down. These two are strikers. There's not going to be any humping legs. There's not going to be any, arm bars from guard and judo throws and stuff like that. These two like to throw down, and they're super fun to watch. These two are high-level prospects. I mean, when you talk about Shanelle Dyre, it's pretty evident and apparent that Shanelle Dyre has been striking for a very long time. This girl has got highlight after highlight, whether it's spinning elbows, head kicks. Her tie clinch knees are nasty, and she's well-rounded too. It's not just the striking. I've seen her grapple as well, and she just seems like someone who has a super bright future. Like, you can tell from her pro debut that this is someone that's going to be in the UFC one day. She's physical on top of the technical skills, but she just has that thing about her. So Shanelle Dyre, as soon as I saw her, and I started with her pro debut where she got that spinning back elbow, she immediately stood out as someone that, you get the right experience under you, you pay your dues, and she can be in the UFC one day. And now Tuesday night, she has the opportunity to fight for a contract. But on the other side, with Foro comes to bang. Foro is like a female John Lineker. She is so fun to watch. She's got that one-hitter quitter power. And man, if you box in the pocket with Foro, she's going to go out there and not just hurt you, but stiffen you and put you on that highlight reel. She's got nasty hooks. Think Jessica Andrade. Think John Lineker. That's exactly what she brings to the table. She's the new age Brazilian, short, stocky gunslinger that just goes out there and puts people down. And that's exactly what the fans want to see. So I could not be happier with this matchup, kicking off the card and representing the ladies between Dyre and Foro. What I think is going to be the deciding factor in this fight is the distance and range at which it takes place, in addition to who's on the front foot and who's leading the dance. So I think if Dyre can get Foro going backwards and keep this at kicking range, man, Dyre's kick returns and her counters are so on point. They're so technical. They're almost like reactive to the point where it's like just muscle memory. You can tell, like I said, that she's probably been striking since she was a kid. And with Foro, what she needs to do is close that distance, make sure that she's not backing up along the fence where, Dyre's just picking her apart. Foro's got to make this ugly, and she's got to make Dyre feel her power. She's got to make Dyre think twice about exchanging with Foro, because like I said, and like y'all saw in those highlights, Foro, if she connects clean, she can put women down. Now, one thing I want you all to know, that this fight is at 115 pounds. I know Tapology says that it's at 125 pounds, but that's fake news. So it's Dyre, who I thought was big for 125, who's actually dropping to 115 here. So that's another dynamic about this fight that you got to pay attention to. We're going to have to see how they look on the scales. But all that being said, I want to see both these ladies in the UFC. How can you not love Foro going out there, getting those one-hitter quitter knockouts? I think that Dyre could be on a trajectory to one day hit the rankings, man. I mean, her striking is on such an advanced level. She's so technically sound. She's so precise, and she really seems focused and dialed in. So I cannot wait for this fight. All comes down to what range it plays at. But I'm going to pick Dyre to come out here, keep this fight at kicking range, pick apart Foro, and win that UFC contract. Next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Chasen Blair. He's 7-3, taking on Samuel Sanches, who's 10-1. Currently, they got it a dead pick 'em. Chasen Blair -110. Samuel Sanches is also -110. So Chasen Blair is 26. Samuel Sanches is 22. Samuel Sanches is 6'1". Chasen Blair is 5'10". We currently don't know Samuel Sanchez's reach, but Chasen Blair's reach is 71 inches. And I assume that Samuel Sanchez has a reach advantage in this spot. Now, this is another very intriguing fight. And pick'em kind of makes sense. I'm not sure it's going to play out like a pick'em, but before the fact, I completely understand why it's set that way. Because with Blair, we have a lot of footage on Blair. And, you know, he was on Contender Series. He fought against Cody Steele. I thought he put on a good fight. You know, eventually he went down to that body shot. He got pressured a little bit, but he didn't look like someone that doesn't belong, right? Like, it just wasn't his night that night. But, man, he went back to the regional scene. And I got to tell you what, the way he handled his bounce back opponent, he ran through him in a way where it was like, okay, that was a UFC ready level performance. And I was super impressed because when Chasen Blair was making his first Contender Series appearance, I wasn't sold on the guy at all. You know, I was pretty confident that Cody Steele was going to go out there and have his way with him. And I was thinking that, you know, Chasen Blair is just a guy where it's just not going to pan out. It's just not going to pan out at the UFC level. But I got to tell you what, the way he bounced back, that throw he hit the dude with, the way he took his back and choked him out. Also on the feet, he was looking fantastic. So Blair is an improving fighter. And I took note that, hey, just because I wasn't that impressed with his early footage, he's definitely someone that's evolving, that's improving, and someone to keep your eye out for. Now, on the other side with Samuel Sanchez, I would describe this kid as a young phenom. Listen, he's only 22 years old, but he's a 6'1" lightweight. And man, he's one of these guys that you're going to be seeing making big leaps every single time you see him fight, because every fight we've seen so far, look, he's green, but you see the potential. You see what his finished product could one day be. You're seeing glimpses of it. And that size for 155 pounds is going to take him super far. And this is a guy that trains with Jailton Almeida and Eduardo Mora, who's also in the UFC, and also on this card, Felipe Franco. They also train together. And man, I feel like Sanchez is the guy from that camp who isn't just gonna, you know, sell out for the takedown at all costs, no matter what, like Jailton or like Felipe, who we're gonna talk about in the next fight. But Sanchez, he's like the striker of the bunch, and he's calm, he's technical, he's long, heavy kicks. The only thing is he's 22 years old. He's just a kid. He's a little bit on the green side. Now, I'm not saying that Blair is, you know, this, you know, veteran with, you know, 3 times the experience of as Sanchez or anything like that. It's actually Sanchez that has more pro fights than Blair, but Blair has fought better level of competition than Sanchez. The only thing about it is this is one of those situations where I'm kind of leaning towards the potential of Sanchez over the credential of Blair. Even though there isn't that much footage of Sanchez, what I have seen looks promising. This guy's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of talent. Now it's just about developing it, because once again, he's just a kid. And kind of like we saw, you know, last week with David Magoya, and when I told y'all that this guy's going to be in the UFC one day, but, you know, he's kind of young. He's only 21 years old. He's got to develop, but he's going to be in the UFC one day for sure. With Sanchez, it's interesting because Blair has less pro fights than him, like I said. And I'm curious if this is a situation where, you know, Sanchez takes a setback, then he comes back better, or if Sanchez is ready right now. So I completely get why this is a coin flip on the odds. I could flip a coin, but listen, like I said, I'm going to go with the potential here, man. I'm going to go with the talent here. I'm going to go with Sanchez to come out here, keep this fight long, and walk down Chasen Blair. Keep him on that back foot, and not that Blair is necessarily going to, you know, quit or, you know, get embarrassed by any means. I think Blair is going to be in this fight. I think Blair is no slouch. It's just that from what I could tell, Sanchez seems like a really talented kid, and he knows exactly where his strengths lie. He's well-rounded, and I think if he can keep this long and use that Muay Thai attack, he should be able to come out here and win a decision. So I know he's super green, and he's still got a lot of developing to do, but I'm going to pick Samuel Sanches to come out here and win this fight. Now, next up in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Felipe Negao Franco. He's 8-0, taking on Freddy Vidal, who is 3-0. Currently, they got it. Felipe Franco, minus 315. The comeback on Freddy Vidal is plus 265. So Felipe Franco is 24. Freddy Vidal is 31. Vidal is 6'3". Franco is 6 feet. And we currently don't know what either of their reaches are. So Freddy Vidal is taking this fight on short notice. So shout out to him. And I actually heard, him do some kind of podcast appearance. It's on his Instagram. And he seems like a really cool, intelligent guy. So shout out to him. Now, here's the thing about this, guys, is that Freddy Vidal is coming in here only 3-0. Now, I know he's got this wrestling background and stuff, but we got to listen. We just got to keep it a buck, as we always do on Half the Battle. If you're a 3-0 stud wrestling prospect coming into whether Contender Series or UFC, then I expect you to be like Bo Nickel, or like when Daniel Cormier was first coming into Strikeforce, right? Like super early into their pro careers, but those guys had insane wrestling credentials. With Vidal, I think it's a case where, like, yeah, he might have wrestled in high school, but I don't think we're dealing with any kind of D1 All-American. I mean, look at these shots. No disrespect to him. He's taking down his opponents and whatnot, but it's the kind of looks where, like, look here where he's going head first. It's just kind of ugly where it's like at 3-0, I hope that your wrestling pedigree is so good that it makes up for the fact that you're getting into a situation that you're simply not ready for. So, yeah, I mean, look, shout out to him. Again, he's got big balls. And I think that, you get some experience on your belt. Hey, we need light heavyweights. We need heavyweights. So a couple more wins and he could find himself in another Contender Series opportunity. But the issue for him here is that not only is he 3-0 as a pro, not only, is his wrestling his claim to fame, but his wrestling is, again, we're not dealing with no Bo Nickel or no DC or anything like that. But then his striking is, from what I've seen, non-existent. But on the other side, with Felipe Franco, you're dealing with a guy who, just like Samuel Sanches, also comes out of that camp with Jailton Almeida. But the difference between Felipe Negao and Sanches is that Negao, Felipe Franco, he is so influenced by Jailton Almeida. He's basically a light heavyweight Jailton Almeida with a different body type, kind of a little bit more on the short and stocky side. But this guy, make no mistake about his intentions. As soon as that bell rings, he is going to shoot, try to get you down past position, whether he pounds you out, grinds you out, or chokes you out. He's looking to have some kind of ground dominance, and that's what he's done 8 times in a row. He's fought who's been put in front of him, but to me, guys, you got to remember that with Contender Series, this is not the UFC. You should treat this like you're capping regional fights. So, when I talk about, last week, Tommy McMillan, how, he's a 3-time state champion from Montana. He went 52-0 his senior year, and he broke the record for most pins. Someone was making fun of me like, you're capping fights based off high school wrestling? Oh, brr. And it's like, no, but I felt like that was an important factor considering that McGoyan can wrestle his ass off. And y'all saw it played a factor there. Tommy McMillan was able to wrestle in reverse those last 2 rounds and put the pace on David McGoyan. But the reason I need to know these things is because here with Vidal, with his 3-0, as a pro in MMA and his wrestling credentials, we're not dealing with, a state champ wrestler, a D1 wrestler, a guy who broke the record for most pins, a guy who won 52-0 his senior year. We're not dealing with all that. So, yeah, again, props to him for taking this fight, but it is 2 grapplers, so in theory, maybe he could stuff takedowns and keep it standing. But like when we look at their stand-up, Franco has basic, serviceable stand-up, but Vidal kind of has like no stand-up. So it's like, yeah, if you stuff the takedowns, then what? You know what I mean? So I think Franco has more ways to win, but I think Franco is going to actually come out here and beat Vidal at his own game and get a ground stoppage and take him down and finish the fight. Next up in the featherweight division, we got the return of Cam Teague. He's 9-1, taking on Lerryan Douglas, who is 12-5. Currently, they got it Lerryan Douglas minus 500. The comeback on Cam Teague is plus 375. So Lerryan Douglas is 29, Cam Teague is 27. Both men are 5'10", and Lerryan Douglas is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage at 72 inches of reach. So, man, this is an interesting one. So obviously, y'all know Douglas is the biggest favorite on the card, and for good reason. He comes from a very good regional scene. I mean, we're dealing with a guy who is the interim LFA champion. You already know those are serious credentials to make your debut on Contender Series or even the UFC. Now, when you talk about Lerryan Douglas, this is a guy who he's patient. He likes to take his time, but when he finds his opening and he lets his hands go, oh my God, will bodies hit the floor. And he's got some devastating knockouts on his highlight reel. He'll chop you down with big kicks. And then, man, when it's time to go upstairs, boy, does he go upstairs. And the reactions he gets from his opponents, I mean, they're asleep on the canvas, twitching. They got to bring in the smelling salts, the flashing lights, the stretchers. So, man, when Lerryan Douglas gets you, boy, does he get you. And he also has some really underrated takedown defense, too. My only issues with Lerryan Douglas, not necessarily in this fight against Cam Teague, but going forward, as I suspect he's going to make it into the UFC, is that the volume is on the way lower side. Also, I've seen him hurt and knocked out in a variety of fights. Now, granted, the last guy that knocked him out was a stud. You know, I can't wait to see that guy. Isaac, it was his name, not Isaac, but it's Isaac or something. The Australian kid. I want to see that guy on Contender Series too. But, man, after that loss, Douglas just came back, and he went on a kill streak, man. I mean, 4 straight vicious knockouts. But up until the knockouts, the volume is super low. But the thing is, can Cam Teague make him pay for that? So the thing about Cam Teague is I respect Cam Teague, man. He's not the most athletic guy, but he's enthusiastic. He comes to scrap. He's got good cardio. And if you start to slow down on a guy like Cam Teague, he will tee off on you. He will put that pace on you. But listen, man, he's handling these guys here in this highlight reel, and it looks exciting watching it. I mean, listen, man, this is a ginger with intent to injure. You know what I'm saying, man? So Cam Teague is a bad boy. But the thing is, he might be severely outclassed in this matchup. And as you see here, you know, when Kevin Vallejo's teed off on him on that Contender Series debut, I can see a similar thing happening here. Now, listen, Douglas is no Kevin Vallejos in terms of the output, but when he gets you, he gets you. So I think eventually he's going to get to Cam Teague. Like, I feel for Cam Teague because you know he really wants this. You know that he's a true fighter. It's just he's severely lacking in the athleticism department. And even though you can tell he's been putting extensive work on trying to get his hands better after that Vallejos fight. He even took a pro boxing match, so I commend him. I just think that Douglas is better than him. Like I said, my issues with Douglas are going to come to light when he gets to the UFC. But here against Cam Teague, I think he should be fine. And I think he should come out here and get a devastating knockout. So I'm going to go with Douglas to come out here and win this fight. Featured bout in the heavyweight division. We got a matchup between Anthony Guarascio. He's 4-0, taking on Steven Asplund, who's 5-1. Currently, they got it. Guarascio minus 175. The comeback on Steven Asplund is plus 150. Anthony Guarascio is 31. Asplund is 27. Asplund's 6'5". Guarascio 6'2", but Asplund's only going to have a 1-inch reach advantage at 78 inches of reach. I'm excited about this fight, man. I heard some people asking, why is this the featured bout? I'll tell you why this is the featured bout, because this dude, Anthony Guarascio, he goes out there and he fights the exact way you want to see heavyweights fight. Let's take a look at this highlight reel. We're dealing with a guy who he's somewhat athletic for heavyweight standards, and he throws big bombs, overhand rights, left hooks. And when he swarms, he gets vicious highlight reel, out cold, stiff, 50K KOs. And he's got so many of them, man. And he's confident, and he's a headhunter. And this right here, this knockout you're looking at here was against the CFFC champ and a Dana White Contender Series vet. And boy, did he starch him, man. So that proved that he's ready for this opportunity. And I'm super excited to see what he looks like here. And for only being 4-0, I feel like he's developing the right way. And if you give him kind of these lower tier fights in the UFC, he can put on the kind of highlight reel knockouts that we want to see. Now, on the other side with Steven Asplund, listen, he's 6'5", and for kind of, being a fat boy, kind of being a tub of lard, he's deceptively fast. I got to give him credit. His technique's a little bit better than you'd expect looking at a guy that, looks like that. No disrespect to him. He definitely comes to fight, and he's a true fighter. So I respect him for sure. I just feel like he's going to severely struggle when we're talking about, the UFC and real athletes and, guys that actually, probably do sit-ups, in their training camp and, and just live the life. Look, I'm not saying that this guy can't come out here and fight. I'm just saying that when we're scouting people to be, future UFC fighters, I want a guy that, at least like can run 2 miles every day, as opposed to 0, right? I prefer 6 to 12, but, at least give me a 1 mile run a day, and look, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm just saying the UFC is the highest level of fighting. And this guy Asplund actually does have some skills and some techniques. It's just like, can we maybe like hit the weight room or something? But that being said, even though this is an athletic heavyweight versus a fat heavyweight, the fat heavyweight, man, if he can pin you up against the fence, or if he can get on top of you, or if he can get you tired and get his combinations going, then like I said, he does have skills. It's just, I want to see real athletes in the UFC. I want to see guys that take all aspects of the game seriously. And I think that Guarascio does that, man. I feel like, look, I know that all his fights haven't gone past, a certain minute mark of the first round, but I feel like that doesn't matter here. I feel like that could continue here. Yeah, as he gets to the UFC and he starts stepping up in competition, then we can worry about things like that. But Tuesday night, live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, I think Anthony Guarascio is going to come out here and knock out Steven Asplund in the first round and get a UFC contract. I think Dana's going to be like, hey, kid, you're right up my alley. Get your ass over here, Anthony. You're in the UFC. So now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for Dana White's Contender Series Week 5? My friends, the fight to watch is the ladies, Dyre versus Foro. I mean, I feel like this is the most high-level matchup on the entire card. You got a fighter in Dyre who you can tell she's been striking since she was just a kid. Super technical, taking on a knockout machine in Foro, which is very rare to see at 115 pounds. You think of the Jessica Andrades, and Foro could wave the torch as the next Brazilian bomber for the ladies, but Dyre might be something special. So for that reason, Dyre versus Foro is my fight to watch. So my friends, who is my fighter to watch? My fighter to watch, I think it might surprise you, is actually Anthony Guarascio. Man, listen, I know he's only 4-0, but there's a certain way that he carries himself. Let's play this highlight reel again, man. Come on, man. Like, look at this stuff. When you see heavyweights coming out here and they're getting these kind of knockouts, they're this vicious, they're this violent, and they're going out here making these kind of statements, that's what the fans want to see. We don't want to see guys pinned up against the fence. Like, look at these follow-ups, man. Like, this guy's coming out here and he's not playing games. He's not coming out here to try to hump your legs and try to make the crowd boo. He's trying to take your head off with massive concussive blows. And that's exactly what he's doing. And hopefully that trend continues Tuesday night on Contender Series and in the UFC. So I'm going to go with Anthony Guarascio to be my fighter to watch. Damn, my light just like went out, but hey, that still looks pretty cool. A little yin yang. And we just had that Paris event. So, oh, now my other one went out. What do y'all think about this? Is that fitting at all? But no, but listen, my friends, I want to thank y'all so much for taking the time to check out this very special edition, Dana White's Contender Series Week 5 edition of Half the Battle. Thank y'all so much. Hey, I'm trying to get to 10K subscribers. Please help me get there. And when I do get to 10K subscribers on YouTube, I'm going to be giving out some free signed Malcolm Wellmaker gear. Also, I want to sincerely thank y'all for making the last episode of Dana White's Contender Series on Half the Battle, my most ever watched Contender Series video, and my most watched episode of Half the Battle in 2025. So guys, please, let's keep that up. Smash the subscribe, smash the like, leave me a comment, share if you feel so inclined. Follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks, on Instagram at Half the Battle Pod, on TikTok at Half the Battle Podcast. Plus, I'm available on all the audio platforms, the Spotify's, the iTunes, the this, the that. So shout out to all my audio listeners. Y'all know I got love for you too. So to the fans, thank you all again so much for all your support. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.